Okay, so I I'm alive. Um, but I am sick as a dog, so I feel like I'm maybe getting somewhere just a bit slower. Um, yeah, I have not looked over the later release videos that I released. I would have stopped their release, except I've just been in not a literal coma, but I've been plastered to my bed. Like I've been very, very, very unwell and really not really been able to stand or drink much water. I've been vomiting a lot. Yeah, didn't eat for till a little bit yesterday. Um, like I'm really hungry and weak, but yeah, and I did not, thankfully, have any medical intervention, any fucking busybodies except for yesterday because somebody called St. John and they better not be billing me because I did not call them, and I eventually asked them to leave because they were pissing me off by going on and on about mental health. And it's like, for fuck's sake, like I said, I know that St. John, I've had some trouble with management, but the actual ambulance officers, the EMTs and the paramedics are generally really fucking lovely. But and I found that in the past when people have called them on me because I've been suicidal, that they've really understood very well, and I had praised, I mean this would be a video going back a year now, I had praised one and he was just a newbie, had just got his stripes, and he'd done a lot of really intensive training, which is on the job training where you're a first responder, which is intense, and I was absolutely amazed that someone as young and really sort of helpless and innocent seeming could cope with that, but he seemed to have the chops for it actually. And because I told him what I was going through as a bullied adult, he told me that he had been bullied at school, so he really understood. And honestly, if you've been bullied and you really have been bullied, you do understand. It's not like people say, I understand because this happened to me. It's like, no, that's not what it's like. It's because the bullying that he would be referring to probably would be mobbing. If that happens at school, it's generally like a great big gang of people. Um, so a lot of what people call bullying is mobbing, but it's easier to say bullying. But then again, it's better to get in and say, have you heard of mobbing? And just explain what that is, because then you're introducing an established concept that exists um, with, indubitably. Um, I don't have a lot of stock in the social sciences, but they do produce um, at least some very good qualitative data and some good quantitative data, even if it's just the ballpark, that it really does rip lives apart, and it rips families apart. A lot of families are involved in the mobbing if it's at school, so the whole family gets mobbed. And it's a horrible feeling when you're trying to protect your child, I'll fucking bet. But it's something else when you're going through it all alone, and and no one believes you or cares or whatever. And I basically just said to them, I want you to leave now, because one of them in particular was just going on and on about, am I under mental health services? And it's like, I've just finished telling you this is human rights abuses, and you are victim blaming people by trying to scapegoat their mental health. Like your mind isn't strong enough to withstand a life of persecution. Like, fuck off. Like, fuck the fuck off. I said, you're actually making me feel worse. And if you do, like they were saying, we do actually have powers to take you. I'm like, well, you don't really. You do have some powers that anybody has, I suppose, if you're persuasive enough, or the hospital staff are ignorant enough, and of course they are, to get me to hospital. But once I'm there, I can discharge myself. I'm a little bit more aware of the subtleties of when you can intervene in someone's suicidality, and it's like, well, this happened 3 days ago, so I'm feeling really sick as a dog now, and you're really, really making me feel a lot worse. You're making me feel more abandoned, more hopeless, and more victim blamed than ever. So it was not helpful at all. But anyway, so I haven't had, and they didn't do any medical checkup at all. They just wanted to take me to talk to a psychiatrist. And I'm like, for fuck's sake, they kept asking me, what would you take a call from crisis resolution? They kept asking me this in different questions, and every time my answer was, fuck no. Why not? And I kept explaining, because they're really abusive and they don't understand trauma. And you cannot put someone who's not trained in trauma onto a person with trauma, because they're going to make their trauma a fuck of a lot worse. And they said, well, crisis resolution said if you won't accept that, then get a police welfare check. And I said, I've tried to kill myself after 2 police welfare checks. That's how much I appreciate police welfare checks. And if you take me to the hospital against my will and I'm released again at night time, I'm probably just going to, it's near enough an accessible part of that Avon, I'm probably just going to fucking jump in that Avon, because, again, I'll just be ditched in the middle of the fucking city with no particular way to get home, feeling really unwell, with no money, and the hospital with absolutely no conscience, who was willing to lie to say they directed me to a homeless shelter when they know there aren't any homeless shelters available at short notice. And not to me anyway. I'm blocked from City Mission because of what the police have done to me, because I've got... everyone's got a police record to an extent. If you've got an NIA, then you may have an empty record, but you've got the provisions of a record. And it could just be, the things on my record are just like calling in a car alarm, It's like, come on, man, stop complaining about the fire alarm, ring the fucking cops about it. Because either someone's actually breaking into a car, or no one's breaking into a car and no one's going to do anything about it, and it's noise pollution. So either way, if I can call someone and get that shit turned off, because they've got access to NZTA records, or at least can, they can at least get the, you do, and if you can see the car, give them the rego, and they look up the rego person, they call the person and say, your car alarm's going, and anyway, so that's the kind of thing I used to have on my police record. Now, I don't have a criminal record. I don't even have a pending criminal record. But I'm shut out of places, and I'm chased out of homes, and I'm basically homeless, and this is because of police. And as I've made very clear, I believe it's all very deliberate. They're basically just trying to remove all avenues of support from me, including just having a home. And MSD is breaking every law it can even think of to bully me into accepting obligations that do not exist and that I cannot possibly manage. So the reason that the things that, people keep saying, are you feeling suicidal today? And I said, it's not a feeling. I said, well, are you planning, are you thinking of it? And I'm like, yes, I do intend to die, yes. And then they ask me more clarifying questions, and it's like, you're asking clarifying questions that clarify something a step down from that. I'm saying I'm actively suicidal, I want to die, I intend to die, I am just really exhausted trying to think of a way to do it. And I said to the Ambos, what I've said before, is like, maybe I die every time, but I'm somehow in this loop. And it really scares me because I was talking to someone, and often when I say I've been talking to someone else I've mentioned, but it's in a different context, and I don't really want to go back into that context. But I was talking to someone about, my attempts to die and my will to die. This is when I was backpacking, and they said, don't do that because you end up, when you die, you end up in exactly the same place that you were before you died. And that really put the fucking fear into me, because it was like this kind of fear I'd had, and it's like, I'm sorry, nobody knows what happens once we die. And you think, and it's horrible to me to think that everyone who's taken their last breath just wakes up and they're just in the same fucking situation. And then I'm starting to wonder, maybe that's where this suicide is. Maybe this is somehow with it. I mean, I don't know. Like, obviously, like, this is all very. It wishes it were esoteric. It wishes it were esoteric. It's really just very woo. But it does make me think, like, how the fuck have I not died yet? Like, I find it implausible that I haven't. And one of the methods that I used a combo of the previous methods, plus I experimented with cutting myself with some glass, which I think I might have shown, and yes, it was very effective, unlike the craft knife, but I just couldn't. I put a big proper shard next to my bed, but I couldn't. I just can't, I can't. And I think, anti-feminists like me, but I don't hold this belief anymore, because I've been on the other side. And bear in mind, I'm not making a statistical claim. I'm just talking about there is an exception, I know for sure, to the idea that women only attempt non-fatal methods because they know they're not going to die. I know there is one exception to that, and that's me. And if there's one exception, there's bound to be other exceptions. And I think it really is just because women are more squeamish, and we just don't have, like, I did say to the paramedics, if I had a gun, I'd do it right now. And they're like, well, I'm just trying to figure out, are you suicidal or not? Like, you're saying you're not going to kill yourself tonight. I'm like, there is no conflict. You say I'm actively suicidal, but no, I'm not going to kill myself tonight. They said, why not? And I'm like, I'm absolutely fucking exhausted. I'm so exhausted, and I've got no plausible method to do it. It takes a lot out of you. Like, needing to not be alive anymore is not the same thing as your life meaning nothing to you. My life means a lot to me, but I'm not allowed to have it. Yeah, so I guess I'll just upload that now, and then I'll sort of tell my next part of my story about court, and my, like, it's not desperation anymore. The only desperation is, how do I fucking die? It's the only way to get these monsters off my back. You've got to see how having no home, and even an unstable home, because an unstable home is the same torture. It's not the torture of not having a home, but an unstable housing is like when you've slept on the streets, which I have for one night. I know that I can't do it. Like, I know that I can't, because I don't know where people go, for one thing. And I don't have a car, like, I don't have methods of transport, like, even people usually just have a bicycle. I just don't have any of that, and I don't have the wherewithal in me left to start finding ways to sleep on the street. Like, that is not in my game plan. That's not a solution that I'm trying to, that's not a solution I'm trying to get. Like, I need to die. Whatever I touch just tends to shit. It never used to be like this, but something has happened to me. Something has happened to me, and it's so weird, but it really is like. I mean, I am systemically oppressed, and that is unfortunate that is such a woke, and ordinarily speaking, implausible thing to say. It's not about race, I can tell you. It's about people's opportunities to have a crack at you without their victim having recourse, and that's me. Like, I've spoken about getting more on side with Malcolm X's way of seeing things. But I see whites as a variable, not a specific cause, because there are just shit people in the world of any race, and those shit people will take any advantages they can to harm people who have no advantages. And I've got some advantages. Like, I've got some. Like, I'm not saying I've got none, and I'm not trying to be a sad sack, and I'm not trying to be vain, but at 46, I have some looks left, and I can scrape by a little bit with that, because people, are really, really horrible to people who are not good looking, and I'm probably a little bit over average, probably. Whether or not that takes into account my age or not, it probably has a lot to do with the truckload of weight I've lost. But it's not going to last much longer. Stress and trauma just rip shit out of your fucking looks, and oh my god, my ass is so fucking horrible. Like, more awful things have happened to it, and when I wasn't watching, I've got to watch that thing all the time just to adjust myself. It's like, I feel like if Smithers from The Simpsons were my ass, he would, like, maybe kind of go, she's kind of Mr. Burnsy, I really do. I think I've got the kind of ass that Smithers would start to go dead ass about. So it's so fucking bad, and I just want to rest. I feel really groggy. All I have all around me is just hostility, and it's really, really fucking horrible, man. Like, it's really horrible. But anyway, I'll upload this first, and then I'll tell about my fucking horrible day with a fucking shithead of a judge.